It's impossible to imagine how Apple, a trillion-dollar corporation, went bankrupt in the late 1990s. For a period, it appeared to be that the organization couldn't do well. Then, at that point, how did it manage to recover? What were the reasons that caused its downfall in the first place? Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we'll be discussing with you how the trillion-dollar company Apple nearly went bankrupt in the 90s. But before we begin, please consider subscribing and pushing the notification bell to be notified of the latest videos. Done? Alright then, let's begin. Apple Inc., which was previously known as Apple Computer Inc., is basically an American company which specializes in producing cell phones, PCs, PC peripherals, and PCs for programming. It was the first organization to successfully produce personalized computers. It launched its first commercially successful personalized computer called Macintosh. Macintosh came with a mouse and a GUI instead of a command line interface. Although it was one of the most successful computers out there, it was still a major source of downfall for the company. There were a lot of reasons why Macintosh failed to bring benefits to the company. One of the main reasons was that its operating system was outdated and its goods were expensive and unsatisfactory. When Steve Jobs modified the organization's messaging and took some risk with the plans and designs, the firm suffered. It's shocking to know that Apple, the trillion-dollar tech company, was once at the edge of becoming bankrupt. There were various reasons for this, including disappointing changes in the design, lack of power, termination of Steve Jobs, no innovation. Apple designs in the mid-1990s did not look that terrible. However, in the late 90s, it looked as if Apple planned to utilize a beige box, but they did not want it to look like Dell. Therefore, Apple hid the launch buttons and put the DVD-ROM on the opposite side. Although this was a major factor that made Apple appear ugly, ugliness was not the main problem. Apple had a much bigger problem that needed to be dealt with. The Mac cost more than the Compaq. To be honest, it's a lot more expensive. The two machines had comparable amounts of RAM, but the Compaq had around 20% greater CPU performance and nearly double the hard drive space. This was one of the reasons why Compaq was favored over Macintosh, and Macintosh ultimately led to Apple's demise. Apple had the option to keep with its current administration in the market through constant advancements and the production of top-notch products. Yet, this tech monster was nearly bankrupt. One of the major reasons for its downfall included losing Steve Jobs. He, as he guaranteed, was expelled from the tech organization in 1985. John Sculley, the then Apple CEO, started wondering how to save the company. He claimed that Steve was not fired, but was requested to step down. After Steve Jobs left, Apple suffered through a huge crisis. It went through extremely difficult times, which involved unfortunate deals, executive issues, and poor sales and management. This also stopped all the innovations and new inventions. Therefore, Steve Jobs was asked to come back to save the company from completely shutting down. In the 1990s, Apple did not produce new generation goods and did not innovate in comparison to its competitor, Microsoft. The issue was that Apple remained still. Despite investing billions, the outcomes have been unsatisfactory. People have caught up and its uniqueness is gone, particularly in comparison to Microsoft. And so the way out for Apple is to innovate, not chop and burn. That was the reason people were moving from Apple and becoming bankrupts. Apple's journey from bankruptcy to become the world's largest and most important tech company has been a business triumph. It has distinguished itself via quick development, the development of high-quality goods, and the creation of a modern global network that reduces costs while producing massive quantities of devices. Apple fought a hard battle and succeeded in protecting itself from going bankrupt. There were a few important innovations that Apple went through. These are the return of Apple co-founder Steve Jobs, contributing to the start of the company's rehabilitation. Gil Amelio was fired from his position as CEO after 12 years of financial misery. New employments were advertised along with a 5-year deal to supply a revamped Mac version of Microsoft Office, as well as a $150 million investment by Microsoft in Apple. The thought of Apple's success was always linked with Microsoft's failure. This thought was relinquished and new improvements and innovations were made to make Apple a powerhouse. Microsoft invested $150 million into Apple and saved Apple from breaking into pieces. In spite of being competitors, Bill Gates worked with his enemy in order to help him. This is because Steve Jobs had been under great pressure from the world because of all the loss his company had faced, and the company was just 9 months from going bankrupt. Due to all the loss in its sales, shares, and management, Bill Gates decided to come up with an idea that could help save Jobs and his company from breaking down. So Gates invested $150 million in Apple and promised not to sell the shares for 3 following years. This saved the company from falling down, and it got back on its feet. An arrangement was made between Apple and Microsoft in which Microsoft had invested $150 million in Apple shares and refused to sell them for 3 years. Articles were published expressing gratitude towards Bill Gates for saving Apple. Instead of allowing Apple to drain to death, Gates chose to make a move to work with the competitor. This has not only reinforced his own company, but also showcased that Microsoft was not imposing a business model by helping its competitor. Apple was still fighting and required a good product to make things happen. The arrangement included the iMac, which debuted in 1998. Jonathan, the creator of now famous Apple technologies such as the iPod and the iPhone, created the customized plan which resembled the Macintosh 128K. He reimagined the beige box design, and the iMac sold over 800,000 copies in its first 5 months. For the first time, the corporation made a profit of $309 million in 1998. Steve Jobs supposedly assembled a conference and advised his team to create something interesting and attractive. He wanted to toss the assets into a new cutting-edge PC model. This proved to be a success, and people started noticing Apple and all the hard work was finally paying off. Apple had begun to improve with higher earnings and stock prices. Their sales grew up from 3.2% and the benefits multiplied to $601 million. A 94% expansion from the previous year. With the introduction of Final Cut Pro, Apple expanded its product line beyond PCs. They also noted what worked with the iMac and developed new products based on shown success. Every achievement shown that Jobs was turning the organization around, and individuals in general developed more positive views about Apple. In May of 2001, the first Apple Play Store marked a hit. Within a couple months, Steve Jobs came up with the idea of iPod, a portable music gadget which broke records. In later years, Apple released its best idea, iTunes, which broke standards. It offers a large number of services such as television, videos, podcasts, games, etc., all to be used by its customers. iTunes is basically a software program which can be used as a media player and a music player both. It stores songs in a variety of categories such as artist, song name, album name, etc. You can also create several albums in your iTunes. In later years, Apple developed an application for iTunes, the iTunes Store. iTunes Store can be used to buy and download music from your phone and laptop respectively. In its first 6 years, it sold its $10 billion songs. Moreover, iTunes also offers a variety of services such as videos, television, podcasts, games, etc. to be used by its customers. Apple computer market share continued to decline, hitting a low of 3% in 2004. However, with the iTunes iPod combo, Apple positioned themselves to take over the music industry. Apple also released the popular iPod mini that year, and at the end of iTunes' first year, Apple had a 70% market share of legal downloaded music. By July of 2004, more than 100 million songs had been downloaded. In line with the micro trend, Apple created a series of tiny stores that were around half the size of its other retail locations in order to expand into smaller regions with lower demand. Apple launched a slim screen laptop, the MacBook Pro. MacBook had various features that proved to be a success, such as a good operating system which does not get damaged even if you close the laptop while working. MacBook Pro gave out an interesting look because of its appearance. Its few millimeters wide screen made it delicate and yet decent to use. AirPods are an innovation which cannot be neglected when talking about Apple's success. AirPods are wireless hearing devices to be used for listening to music. They are specifically made to fit into an individual's ears without falling out. They are connected to the phone or laptop through Bluetooth and have an excellent hearing range. Apple introduced iCloud as an external storage system which stores your data outside of your phone's storage while keeping the data within your phone. iCloud can be logged into any device and its data can be used. iCloud has enhanced the value of Apple stocks. Now, Apple iPhone generates the vast majority of Apple's total income. It accounted for around 50 to 60% of Apple's overall business in 2019, and this amount was significantly greater if prior years had been included. The iPhone sold billions of units, including iOS items that have been spun off. It also accomplished something big that other US technology companies, including Microsoft, Google, Uber, Amazon, and others, have not. It successfully entered the Chinese market. Above all, it was one of the most inventive items available at the time. A touchscreen phone that could function as an MP3 player, a phone, an internet device, and other functions was groundbreaking at the time. It revolutionized mobile computing and ushered in a new era of smartphones. And coming to a close, it can be said that although there were various factors which nearly made Apple bankrupt, there are double the factors that helped it get back to its feet. When Steve Jobs was terminated from his job, Apple went downhill and lost its power of innovation. After he left, Apple went through a crisis such as poor management with less or no shares. One of the other reasons, which were the early factors of the downfall of the company, was disappointing designs. Steve Jobs came up with an ugly design which repelled the customers away from Apple. This design was similar to Dell, but there were some arrangements made in it to keep it different from Dell. These arrangements resulted in increasing the bad appearance. Moreover, Apple was a system software with much less powerful CPU than that of Compaq. Therefore, customers preferred to use Compaq over Apple. Steve Jobs was brought back to Apple to improve the company's underlying conditions. He decided to bring new innovations and improvements to the company, and these included launching iMac, iPod, iPhone, iPad, etc. In addition to this, Microsoft proved to be a great help as it invested $150 million in Apple shares. This helped Apple get back on its feet and helped the company in keeping up with the growth. And that is all for today's video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please consider subscribing and pushing the notification bell to be notified of the latest videos. While you're at it, why not share with your friends? And with that said, I'll be seeing you in the next one.